Welcome to ilectureonline. Here we have a very interesting and also very challenging advanced JEE problem. Well, it deals with E&M and Gauss's law, so let's read it so we understand it, and then we'll see just how quickly this can become very difficult to figure out unless you know certain things. If you don't remember those things, you would have a hard time and you probably need to guess at the answers. But at least let's read it and see what this is about. We have a charged spherical shell of radius r, and there it is. So the radius of this would be equal to r. And it carries a total charge q, given capital Phi as the flux of the electric field through a closed cylinder. So we have a cylinder, and so the flux goes to the surface of the cylinder. Surrounding the sphere, it has height h and radius r. So this cylinder has radius r and has height h. Now, the drawings were not included in the problem, so I just put them there in the interest of time. And the center of the cylinder is at the exact same location as the center of the sphere. So the same height above as below the center, and the same left to right from the center. In other words, the two centers of the sphere and of the cylinder are at the exact same location. They're coincident. So now we have to figure out which of the four statements are correct. So if we take a quick look, here we realize that the flux equals q over epsilon sub naught if the Gaussian surface completely surrounds all of the charge. That is, by definition, Gauss's law right here. And so in this case, when we look at it, if the height is larger than twice the radius of the sphere, in other words, it sticks out beyond the sphere on the top and the bottom, and the radius of the cylinder is larger than the radius of the sphere, that indicates that the entire sphere is inside the cylinder. And because of that, yes indeed, you would use Gauss's law that the electric flux is equal to the charge inside divided by epsilon sub naught. So A is definitely correct. How about B? Now what they've done is they've made the cylinder smaller. The height is now 8r over 5, so it doesn't quite get to the very top and the very bottom of the sphere, and the radius now becomes 3/5 the radius of the sphere. So now we have to realize that we're dealing with a 3, 4, 5 triangle, and so just to help us out, it is important that you understand the concept of the triangle. So if we draw a triangle like this, we have the hypotenuse, we have the side on the top, and we have the side on the side right here. So that's a triangle right here. And then, depending upon the dimensions of the cylinder, the triangle, of course, is going to change. So if we draw the center of the cylinder right there, so here we have this little triangle. And notice that that triangle looks a lot like this triangle right here, where this is 4, this is 3, and this is 5. So you can see that the opposite side is 3/5 the hypotenuse, and the adjacent side is 4/5 the hypotenuse if this is the angle. So we're dealing with a 37-degree angle, essentially 37 degrees. So if that's the case, it turns out that the cylinder will be completely inside the sphere. And so again, unless you understand the geometry and the trigonometry of all that, that would be difficult to ascertain. But in this case, sure enough, it is such that the cylinder will be completely inside the sphere with the edges touching the sphere. In other words, all of the electric field emanates away from the sphere and none of the flux will go through the cylinder. Because of that, we can say that in this case, H is smaller than 8/5 r. In other words, if you take 4/5 of that, that would be one direction, and 4/5 in the other direction for 8/5. So you can see that this would be 4/5. Then the radius here would be 3/5. So therefore, the cylinder would be completely inside the sphere, and therefore the flux would be equal to 0. So you could say that B must be true as well. Now for C and D, notice that in both cases we have the same flux, 1/5 q over epsilon sub naught. But the situation is different, which means both of them cannot be correct at the same time. They could possibly both be wrong, or one of them could be right, but definitely not both of them. So now we have two situations. Notice that the height is now bigger than 2r again, so height-wise, the sphere completely fits inside the cylinder for both cases. But this is a narrower cylinder, this is a wider cylinder. So we have a different triangle. Here we have a 37-degree angle, and there we have a 53-degree angle according to these dimensions. If the radius is 3/5 r versus 4/5 r, we either have a 3-4-5 or 4-3-5 triangle. So in this case, we have the first triangle, 3-4-5. In this case, we have the second triangle, 4-3-5. And so you can see that at the very top, we have a portion of the sphere that's included in the cylinder. And here you can see that this forms a circle with an angle of 37 degrees. So now we're talking about square angles and steradians. And so when you think about an entire sphere, well, that consists of 4 pi steradians, which is about 12 pi steradians. So a sphere, the square angle of a sphere is about 4 pi steradians, which is about 12.5. So very close, a little bit more than 12.5, but let's say 12.5. So now we have to decide what fraction of the whole sphere is inside the cylinder. And then, of course, if you know this, but most people and I didn't know that right off the top of my head, I had to go look it up. It turns out that if you have a portion of a circle, so let's say you have a circle here, and you have a portion of a circle where the angle is 30 degrees, that's approximately, this area is approximately equal to 1 steradian. And of course you would have one on the other side, so you have another 1 steradian, so you have 1 steradian here, we have 1 steradian there, that gives you 2 steradians. But in this case, we're talking about an angle of 37 degrees, so it's bigger than 30 degrees, 37 degrees, so that gives you about 1.2, 1.3 steradians. So instead of 1, if the angle is 37 degrees, you have maybe 1.2 or 1.3 steradians. And so when you add them up, the area total would be about, let's round it off to 2.5 steradians. So you can see that in the case, steradians. And you can see that in the case where r is 3/5 r, that the surface area inside the surface area, the portion of the surface area of the sphere inside the cylinder is about 2.5 steradians, where the entire sphere is 12.5 steradians. So what fraction is that? Well, we take 2.5 divided by 12.5. Well, that's 1/5, which is 0.2. So now we take a look at that and say, okay, here we have 1/5 of the total charge, 1/5 of the total charge. Well, which of those two is more apt to have that? And of course, C seems to be the correct answer for this situation. D would have a much larger percentage of the total sphere inside the cylinder, so definitely would be 1/5, more like 2/5. So you could say that C is correct and D has to be wrong. Again, if you didn't know this about the number steradians, so that would be square degrees, so to speak, but of course steradians would be square radians for a full sphere, and then try to figure out what portion of that is inside the sphere. You'd have a hard time knowing if you're dealing with the right answer or not. In this case, it becomes obvious once you have that kind of relationship, if you remember it, and that is how we do that. Much better. Yeah. Okay.